Sports presents.
Oh, SIZZLE. We're here in Chicago, baby. We are the center of the sports universe, baby. We're going right on into Titletown. I don't know about you, but I'm jacked up.
Yeah, I think you are jacked up. If you think we're going to Titletown, you are way jacked up, like super jacked up. You're
Wait, hold on,
jacked
wait,
up.
hold on.
Yep.
Now,
You're uber jacked up. Yep.
we got the Chicago Bears
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs, baby. Did I say playoffs? In the playoffs. You know, we got some players on there saying it don't matter how you get there as long as you get there. You know, so they get to play one more again, and and I think this performance we had today really bodes well for the playoffs that we're gonna have.
Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it.
Oh my God!
I want winners.
I'm gonna tell you now, if this is what you're going to get, if we're regressing back to the mean, if you're regressing back to 2 scores and a field goal, they are going to get mollywopped against the Saints. So let's get into the show. Let's just talk about it, man. Let's get to it. Are you ready to get into it?
I don't know if I'm ready for it, but let's get into it.
Let's do it. Listen, welcome in, everyone. You know who it is. You know what it is. It's the Sizzle here on Iron Skillet Radio, Iron Skillet Television. We are the talk of the 219. Yeah. We are the hottest talk in the 219. And, we've got fire. We've got playoff fire. We've got the Bears in the playoffs. No thanks to their own, but they are in the playoffs. Hey. They did everything they could to make sure they weren't in the playoffs and eventually got in anyway.
Hey,
so
look, if Jody can sneak in the back door, so can the Bears.
All right. So obviously you know how Jay Sizzle's doing. I'm G Sizzle, and we're here to talk about a Bears loss that leads to a win.
Yeah.
So playoff chances. Here we are.
Thanks,
the
Rams.
Chicago Bears are woefully bad on offense when playing against Aaron Rodgers. I don't understand what it is, but I do understand this. The Packers defense stepped up. The Bears, to their credit, their run game was on point.
Yeah, they did well.
Darnell Mooney was doing his thing, and then Mitchell Trubisky did Mitchell Trubisky. It was vintage Mitchell Trubisky. Don't let him pass for the first half.
That first drive looked pretty good, though. I mean, they did well on that first drive. I thought they mixed it up, and he rolled out. He put the ball where it needed to be. But I think what ended up happening up that first drive, the Packers adjusted. And Mitchell went back to look and go, oh. I mean, they're not doing the same thing they were doing the drive before when I was having all that success there. Excuse me, timeout. Is that fair? We need to go talk to somebody because I don't know why they're covering people now. My favorite receiver, I can't throw him the football. I don't know why that is. So after that.
And then you still had Akeem Hicks doing Akeem Hicks things. Now, Akeem Hicks is the heart and soul of the defense, but Akeem Hicks almost got hit with a personal foul, a penalty that would have most likely been devastating at that point in the game.
Yeah, it was
but that's not the big thing.
Yeah.
The big thing is, Jay, how do you devise an offense that gets the best out of Mitchell Trubisky for 4 quarters? Not just one drive, not just one half. Yes, their one drive was impressive. That first drive, that was impressive. I have to say, that was impressive. Methodically, they went down the field. They kept Aaron off the field. But here's the bugaboo. The defense didn't do their job. Aaron Rodgers got whatever he wanted. Was it in the second quarter or second half till he had his first incompletion?
Yeah.
And that would have been a touchdown.
And that was a touchdown drop.
Yeah. It would have been horrific. This score probably should have been around 52-54 for the Packers if they had hit on all cylinders. So with that said, I'm not as I'm not as high on now this victory. Now anything can happen in the playoffs, and it's a new game, it's a new world. But the Saints are just as offensively packed as the Packers are. So, okay, let's just do this. Let's give your breakdown of what you saw game one of the beginning of this playoff. Because to me, this is how you get into the play. It's a playoff game. This Green Bay game was a playoff sampler of what you need to do. It was the tune-up game. This was the playoff tune-up against the best competition in your conference. What did you see from this game?
A one-trick pony can't put on a 2-hour show.
Ooh.
You got
that's a good one. I'm gonna write that down. Hold on, I'm writing that down.
You did. That's why you put them on, on one of the side rings. They go down there and pay a quarter. Everybody else got to pay $5 to get into the main tent.
Wow.
This is what Mitchell Trubisky can do. This is it. And if you take it away from him, can he adjust? Can the Bears adjust? I think you just saw a lack of ability on both sides of being able to adjust when things were going against him. They had a good first drive. Mitchell looked good, but all of a sudden they took away what Mitchell was doing again, and now Mitchell had to take the check downs. He couldn't push the ball downfield. Fine, then take those check downs. Keep moving the ball down the field. And after a while, you saw Mitchell Trubisky. They just again took away something else and took away something else. And now, where you should have probably put Mitchell and dropped him back, even though we know that's not his strong suit. But now the middle of the field was open because you could hit something up the seams. Mitchell wasn't able to produce there. And so we just see a guy who's limited, and unless his legs are carrying him, Mitchell's not going to be able to perform into a high level against high-level defensive minds. Now, you look on the other side of the football with Chuck Pagano, how many times he's going to keep playing that defense where there was no center fielder out there? So it was ridiculous.
So, okay. My prediction has been that Vic Fangio will be defensive coordinator for the Bears 2021-2022 season. I saw a defense that was getting absolutely shredded. I mean, shredded. And big shout out to Danny Trevathan. Man, look. Okay, as a former defensive coordinator, the worst thing in the world is that plant foot step where you have to turn and then head upfield, head up the seam. And it's unfair when you're against a receiver and you're a linebacker. An older linebacker, yeah. The only person I would do that is probably Brian Urlacher, what I've sent out on that route. But with that said, we're seeing some things with Chuck Pagano's defense. And I don't know if this is going to be conducive to a win against a Saints team that, for whatever you want to say, Sean Payton, one of the brilliant minds in the NFL right now, he will definitely digest everything that we just saw in this Bears game and then apply it to what they'll do with the Saints. So how do we walk through correcting? Because they haven't been able to correct, Jay. So maybe tell me if I'm wrong. They haven't been able to correct anything on the fly all year.
Well, I think they tried today was to show Aaron Rodgers some different looks. I think they tried to go down and show him some man when he might have been looking for something else, take it away a few things. But Aaron Rodgers is just a master at finding out, by counting out. He knows where your Mike linebacker is. He's going to count down and figure out who has to take who in a certain scheme, and he's thinking a couple of steps ahead of you. So he's going to run a play or check to a play just to see what you're going to do. He's not really super concerned about if that play gets any yardage. He's just waiting to see any certain offensive set, what your defensive alignment is going to be, and can he manipulate that alignment. And that's what you saw against Danny Trevathan. They were basically getting a cover zero, for lack of a better term. And all of a sudden, he saw Danny Trevathan, even though he was sitting down near the A-gap, he knew Danny Trevathan was going to have to run with that wide receiver coming out of the slot, coming out of the backfield. He knew that. Matter of fact, he put that wide receiver in. That's why, if you remember, his running back was out on the edge playing wide receiver. So he actually flipped those two. The wide receiver now was playing the running back position, and the running back was playing the wide receiver position. So therefore, he got a mismatch on the linebacker when they came down and was playing basically that cover zero and going man across the front. That play, it was over before they snapped the football. Only thing Aaron Rodgers had to wait for is to make sure that his receiver didn't get tackled by the turf god. Because every once in a while he'll reach up there and grab him and knock people down. But so we knew from that point on he was just having his way because he knew they couldn't get to him. And since you couldn't get to him, if you want to blitz me, I'm going to eat you up. As soon as Roquan Smith was gone, that was a wrap because now your person who could change your defense for you against Aaron Rodgers was not there. You had a gentleman in there, Woods. I don't know how often he plays, but this is the NFL. That is Aaron Rodgers, and he was playing checkers, and my man had a 3D chessboard going on out there. And we saw what happened. He had a perfect passer rating going for his first 12 plays. It was a perfect passer rating. I don't even think his uniform got dirty. That's how dominant his play was today. It wasn't even close. I mean, the score, like you said, they could have easily hung 50 on the Bears easy if they wanted to. It wasn't even close. I don't know. Like I could say, the Bears are good against bad teams, but when they come up against good teams, you actually find out where they are. And I did say that last show. I thought this was going to be a turning point for the Bears. Was this the new offense? So it's going to be able to go drop 25 or 30 points on the board. We see again that they fell short of that. And there was at no point in time, even when the game was within a touchdown, did you think the Bears were going to have an opportunity to come back and win this ball game? So it was. Go ahead.
It was a shenanigan show. But let's talk about something real quick. Yeah. And I'm gonna throw something at you. We hadn't talked about this in the pregame, and we haven't talked about it extended talk, but there's some information that's come out. Uh-oh. And I just wanted your natural reaction to what's going on. Okay. So there's some Bears insiders who have attributed the fact that the reason why things are going with Ryan Pace the way they are is that George McCaskey had no intention of letting, Mitchell Trubisky, Matt Nagy, or Ryan Pace go. In fact, what was thought by an insider just to be some rumor and innuendo was then shed light on by Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune, wherein there is some evidence that shows that when they hired Matt Nagy on January 8th of 2018, they didn't give you specifics on the contract, but what they did do was award Pace a 2-year extension that would put him on par with Nagy.
Match him up with Nagy, right? So he's not a lame duck executive with his coach there. Now, I can see why they would do that, but they wouldn't tell the public that because they already know everybody's running around with a pitchfork and want to chase Pace off of the Hallis Hall holy grounds up there. So I could see that happening. I always looked at this. This was just a money type situation for Ed McCaskey. I don't ever thought that they were really trying to win here. They sort of pulled Chuck Pagano off the scrap heap. Basically, he was sort of a sympathy play, but he was also a guy, in case Nagy did go down or something happened, that they could move him in as the interim coach because he's had good success down there with Indianapolis. But now you see an offensive coordinator who still has on his Halloween costume as the head coach of the Chicago Bears is still mucking things up. And so we see with the Bears now, look, I don't understand how Mitchell Trubisky doesn't know which side the running back is going to be on when he goes to hand the football off. I'm not understanding that. He did that early in the ball game. How does he not know? How does he not know which way that running back is going? Or how does the running back not know which way to go on the handoff?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? That opens the door back to our last show when we talked about the Bears. This game was going to be a franchise changer. And I believe that the dominoes have already started to fall. yes, you're going to get into the playoffs. But what just happened was an exposure of everything we've talked about over the past 16 weeks,
Yeah,
for the good and for the bad.
but the narrative is going to be is that Aaron Rodgers is MVP. So he's made everybody look bad like this. So it's just not the Bears, but everybody looks bad. He's a 13-3 ball club, especially when this was a ball club that they said Aaron Rodgers didn't have any weapons. And now you see guys being having career years up there under Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers having a career year up there. So that's one of the things I think they're going to use, is saying, well, hey, Aaron Rodgers is just playing great. We did pull it around. We are, if you look at it, Nagy has been in the playoffs 2 out of the 3 years that he's here. So if you start looking at stuff on paper, just the way it is, he has a case for saying, hey, we getting this thing turned around. If they should somehow, some way, shape, or form, I don't know how, pull off a win, which I don't think they're going to be able to, but at least not get nuclear bomb, I could see the McCaskey saying, hey, we've got it turned around now. We've got the right thing. We've got the right quarterback. Because the issue is now, if you have to dump these guys up out of here, now who do you go get?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the next coach of the Chicago Bears?
Yeah. And we talked about that before. We just talked about, and there's some options out there. My belief, and I think we'll do this show after the season. I'll look to really make sure we set up this show. There's some options up there right in Hallis Hall that would be great options. There's a defensive coordinator that I think is already in-house. There is a general manager or president of operations who's already in-house at Hallis Hall. There's some things in play. But with all that said, the reality is the Bears are going to use every excuse they can use to keep this core together. The question is, for Ryan Pace, what do you do in a draft next year? Because now you've already seen that if this whole Mitchell Trubisky thing is where they're going to ride their train out into the sunset, you're not going to get a quarterback that's going to be drafted. And even if you do, he will be such a low-level quarterback, it's nothing more than he'll be able to be a clipboard holder and a backup placement, because you still got Nick Foles there. You still got to pay him into next season. And he has shown no proficiency as a drafter, as a general manager, of picking talent on the offensive line. So, okay, there you are again. And you still got to sign Allen Robinson and Mitchell Trubisky and get everything kind of put together. And to your point, Jay, Aaron Rodgers has no weapons is probably the worst storyline going. Okay, you've got Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, probably two of your best specialty players in the league. You've got, I call him a homeboy, one of my ISU alums who was a walk-on, who is now their starting tight end. I mean, they've got weapons on top of weapons on top of weapons. And oh, by the way, remember we were talking about your career, your franchise right tackle that was supposed to be, the gateway to Aaron Rodgers? Oh, guess what they did? They moved a center over to a guard, and then a guard down to a line. And then, okay, so they moved one of their better players to right tackle. And guess what? It worked. It worked all night long. It was amazing what they were able to do. So I'm just a little frustrated. Maybe you're not as much as I am, because I see where this is going to go off the wheels, and this is going to go off the tracks really soon going into next week.
Well, here's the issue with the Bears, is that we had high hopes 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Those hopes have been waning ever since. Mm-hmm. And right now, we look at the Bears, and for most people, they would have liked to see a better showing against Green Bay. But also, they never thought they would be in a position to actually get into the playoffs, because they made a little surge on the back end. So they get one more week of football. Now, is this a team that you would look at on a roster and go, okay, this is a team that can win it? Not with that defense playing the way it's playing. We've seen the defense become a shadow of itself, of its former self. And that's just them being on the field too much. And knowing, and then you got a Mitchell Trubisky who's going to push the ball into coverage because he knows they have to try to score points. And so you just have the lesser of two evils playing all the time against each other. And the Bears are just where they are. I mean, they're a 500 football team who snuck into the playoffs, who are going to get nuclear bombed out the playoffs. And you're going to be right back here again next year. You're going to have Mitchell Trubisky back at quarterback next year. How do you not have a backup for David Montgomery? I don't understand that. Why is Cordell Patterson your backup for him? Haven't figured that one out yet. But so you're just looking at a team right now who is not capable of getting out of his own way. It was really good on both at one point in time on the defensive side of the ball, but now you start to see the defense getting gashed. And you didn't really think, I mean, is this, and I wonder if this is a Chuck Pagano thing, is that they're going to bend and don't break. You know, they don't mind the yardage, they just want to put the points up on the board. But, you know, when you're playing those zero coverages like that, you're just inviting Aaron Rodgers to figure it out and eat you alive. And that's basically what happened. Aaron Rodgers got him on 3 big passes, basically. You know, but he knew those passes were going to be there. So it's just a matter of the Bears' brain trust. Are they going to be able to pull something together for next year? I think they're going to sit pat because I think the Bears, the McCaskies, think a lot like Jerry Reinsdorf. I believe they sit and chit chat with each other. I think they do the same thing. I think they also get down there and talk with the Ricketts. You see the Ricketts bleeding off salary with the Cubs, and I think you're looking at these guys all holding hands together around the table, saying because all their teams and trying to figure out which is the best way to keep the revenue coming in for them, keep their team relevant enough for people to show back up in the stands, and not pay that much out for players that they know they can't win a championship with.
You know, it's funny you said that because the Ricketts right now are doing a dumpster sale. They're getting rid of everybody. The Bulls are just what they are. And we can talk about that briefly. The Bulls played tonight against the Mavericks, and it was like watching a bad AAU game. The Bulls regular team was playing against the Mavericks AAU club, their D-League affiliate, and they still only won by a couple of points. And you begin to think to yourself, if there's any team that has any offensive power, the Bulls are roast. They're toast. They're done. And it's the same thing when you look at the Bears. They're roast, toast, and done, especially when you're going against a Sean Payton team and a Drew Brees, and probably you'll have Kamara back. You'll have their running backs back. The only hope for them is that Michael Thomas doesn't figure out that he's still a good receiver and turn it on next week against the Bears. So I'm at a loss to really say what more it can be because, to your point, Jay, it is what we see it is. These are all middling teams, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, the Bears. Okay, some will think the White Sox are going. Until the White Sox get into the playoffs and make some noise, yeah, I'm okay. I'm less than impressed. So, yeah, you got a free week of football. Enjoy it, Bears fans. Happy New Year.
Well, you know, this is 2021. And so, you know.
Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun in 2020. Yeah, that's going to be the rallying cry. I just think right now, most of the teams in the NFL are not good. That's just, you know, seriously. Most of them are not. You got 32 of them out there, and I probably want to say out of that 32, probably 8 are really good. And the rest of them are mid-level to lower level teams in the league. And that's just the way it shakes out. It shakes out that way every year. It's hard to pull yourself out. It's easier to pull yourself out from worst to first than to be in mid-level hell. And that's where we find the Bears at right now, in mid-level hell. You find the Bulls in the same place, mid-level hell. Couldn't pick high enough to get somebody who really was going to make a difference. You know, Patrick Williams is a decent ball player for him, but I have yet has he got me out the seat. Yet have I went, okay, there it is. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the big explosion. I haven't seen the okay, can't nobody guard me. I haven't seen that yet, and I don't think I'm going to see it out of Patrick Williams. And so that's what happens when you're a mid-level team. You get mid-level, very good mid-level players. The thing about the Bears, they moved up to get a mid-level player. And they passed up, you know what I'm saying? And they passed up on a couple of guys who have more potential than Mitchell Trubisky did.
They passed up on Hall of Famers.
Well, the thing about it is, let's go back to it. I mean, I remember with Patrick Mahomes, everybody was talking about how strong his arm was, and he was setting up, and he was throwing the ball all over the yard. Did anybody really, really know that he was going to be Patrick Mahomes? I don't know, but he had a big super cannon. And,
but you knew he wasn't Mitchell Trubisky. You knew at least he had experience.
Mitchell's bigger than he is, right?
Okay.
Mitchell's bigger. Think about it now, because Patrick Mahomes is not that big of a guy. Trubisky.
It's starting to check all those nice little boxes. And see, now this is starting to get back to this. Oh, if you're just tall and angular, if you're 6'4" and just
he's a prototypical pro quarterback.
Nice blonde hair, you could be a great quarterback.
He's a prototypical quarterback. And that's what they went and got, the prototypical quarterback. They didn't go and get they passed on Deshaun Watson. I don't understand how you passed on him. I still haven't figured that out yet.
Because you went and got the prototypical quarterback.
Well, he is a prototypical quarterback. But he is a prototypical quarterback.
But even the prototypical quarterback doesn't mean, look at the greats in this league, in the NFL. They are not prototypical quarterbacks. Brett Favre, Steve Young, you can keep going. They were not prototypical quarterbacks. And every time you try and play the prototypical quarterback, then you get Nick Foles. Then you get the players that the Bears have had for decades and decades and decades that suck. They suck. And even with Rex Grossman, little hands Rex Grossman, he had the little Sylvie hands. They're little hands, and they can't even grip the ball. But he was still somebody they thought, oh, he's a prototypical quarterback. He's going to be great. He's terrible. Does anybody know what happened to any of the other? What happened to the other Bears quarterbacks? They're all gone.
It's just like McCown. It's just like a lot of other people that they picked over the years. This is the first time they were really in the position to get a top flight quarterback, but the top flight quarterback wasn't out on a platter for them. You know what I'm saying?
They screwed it up.
It wasn't like right now where you know who your top flight quarterback. Even if you pick between Fields and you pick between Fields and you pick between
Trevor Lawrence. But we even talked about that in the last show.
Right.
There are about 10 quarterbacks coming out this season, I think, that will be better pros than Mitchell Trubisky.
So they were just picking in a bad quarterback field right there. I mean, you still had Deshaun Watson, who had the issue with the knee. We got to remember that. And so but to move up to take a guy that you didn't mean to move up for, that just wasn't understandable.
See, this is where, again, it's all – I would think Ryan Pace should be fired because he's cost you money. Now, he might get you some playoff money, but he's cost you money. Some of the moves he's made has cost you money. This Allen Robinson thing, it's going to cost you money. You're not going to find a better receiver in the open market. And if you get a lesser receiver, even though Allen Robinson was not effective today, the threat of him still being there was effective. So I would think these are fireable offenses, but I could be wrong. But when you look at what's getting ready to happen with the Bears, you look at how everything's set up. To your point, Jay, there is nobody filtering in. You don't have a backup to your running back. You don't have quality depth on your line. You don't even have a good backup tight end. You got two tight ends. You got a 35-year-old and a young guy that's built like a horse. I mean, I didn't realize how big their tight end was until I saw him today. But he has another problem, which is called fumbling. He has a keen and a distinct, way of putting the ball on the ground.
He's trying too hard. He's trying to make a play, and he needs to take from and go look at the old timers like Witten and the rest of these players out here, even guys on his own team. Get what you can, get down on the ground. So the more you stand up, the more you're going to get that ball tugged away. He made a nice move spinning off the top of somebody. I think he starts figuring out, hey, I can do that all the time. But people are going to figure out that's what you want to do, and that second man coming in is going after the football. Peanut Tillman messed the whole league up because all these guys ball hawk now. All they want to do, not ball hawk with the ball in the air. Everybody's trying to punch the ball out. Everybody's trying to rip the ball out because of Peanut Tillman. So the whole mindset has changed right now. So if you don't get down on the ground, you're very susceptible to getting the ball ripped out of your arms. So, look, I just believe the Bears are a lot like Notre Dame. You know, they got into the Final Four, but they really shouldn't have been there. The only people who really thought they should have been there was Notre Dame. But we all knew when we were watching that game, like, this is not going to go well. And it didn't go well. And it's the same thing with the Bears right now, going up against these better teams in the NFL. They're just not at that caliber. And I don't think they're going to be at that caliber for a while now. I mean, I think right now, even if you eject everybody, and I would have rather saw that and the Bears just going down. But right now, the Bears are 8-8, you know. And so, what's going to happen now? You know, there's no. They could sell Mitchell Trubisky still being here. They could sell the coaching staff. Hey, let's give us one more chance. We almost got it. You know, and these are good numbers for them. You know, I don't think they're going to pay Allen Robinson. To tell you the truth, I think they're going to let him go.
Yeah, we said that before. I don't think that Allen Robinson gets a free pass.
Did you get a franchise tag? I haven't looked at his contract yet. I'm trying to. Where is he at? Oh, can they franchise tag him? Let me find out.
They can. Well, here's the thing: you can franchise one of the two. So you're either going to do it with Mitch or you're going to do it with Allen. I would much rather franchise Allen Robinson and then take my chances in re-signing Mitchell Trubisky. But to your point, Jay, let's look back. The LA Rams, the 49ers, there are teams, especially in the NFC, that you thought were going to be good. The Eagles. And they're not. They're middling teams or they're bad teams. And so now I'm looking at a team that, let's say, by some creation, and God forbid, that on the way to the Mercedes Dome in New Orleans, that all of the Saints get COVID-20 and they're unable to play the game. And they have to forfeit, and the Bears win. And then they move forward, and they get to the second round, and then they have to win again. And then somehow Aaron Rodgers gets run over by a bus because he lost his State Farm coverage. Then, now the Bears are in the Super Bowl. Just walk with me. We're still in the Super Bowl. We have done what we've come to do. And then you look at the good teams in the AFC, and there's no way. I don't think that the Bears could win a rematch against the Buccaneers. I don't believe that in any way, shape, form, or fashion that the Bears will pull out a second win against the Buccaneers. But we know what they did against the Saints. We know that what we've seen with the Bears, we should believe. We should believe everything we've seen and what we've seen and what we know about the Chicago Bears at this point is they suck. Yeah. That's pretty much what we know.
That's great analysis there, G Sizzle.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it's mid-level hell, you know.
Yeah.
This is where we are, and unless we find a savior, you know, unless you get a Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that who comes out of the draft and nobody's really think he's going to be who he is, and all of a sudden he just becomes that guy. Then you look, because I don't think the Bears had the infrastructure right now. They don't have the core. You got to think that defense is aging now. You know, Akeem Hicks, how much more production are you going to get out of Akeem Hicks, and when is he going to be too pricey for the Bears? You know, you can look at Khalil Mack. When is he going to be ready to go? You know, already going to try Allen Robinson right now. He's already making, I think he's the 17th highest player. I was just looking at 17th highest player in the league. 17th highest player wide receiver. But even now, if they franchise him, it's still going to be a problem because you're only looking at $16 or $17 million a year on that. So I don't even know if they're going to even franchise them. They can just say, look, hey, we're going to sign you. We're going to let you go, one or two. So you're not going to get that much more money anywhere else. Either sign with us or try to go somewhere else, but you're not going to get that much more money. So
yeah, I think he's trapped in a COVID trap because of the declining salary cap. I don't think it's really much he could. I think to your point, Jay, you're probably going to see Allen Robinson take a haircut somewhere maybe around the 16 to 17 range, maybe top out about 18, 18.5.
I don't think he's going to get that. He ain't going to get that.
I don't think where he can go anywhere else he can really get him bigger money.
He's not going to get that. He's probably going to get. He's getting $14 million some change right now. If he gets somewhere near $16 million, he'll be lucky to get that. I don't think he's going to get that.
Okay. Well, I mean that's a heck of a sobering reminder of what goes on in business. But before we get ready to go, one thing that we have to talk about outside of our predictions, but the one thing we have to talk about is with the Bears right now, to your point, I believe they're in, we always say basketball hell, they're in football hell. And the only thing that might get them out of this hell-bent state is maybe you start building those lines back again. Mm-hmm. But right now, I don't know, unless you see another path, Jay. The only path I see for the Bears to be victorious moving forward, because I think you have the infrastructure of what they're going to be, is you've got to bring in better linemen offensively and defensively. Now, you may disagree, but the floor is yours.
No, I think defensively, I think they did a pretty decent job. I mean, I like Nichols and a few other guys that got over there. I think they played well. I think it's just you're in a scheme right now that's not very creative. Mm-hmm. And when they're trying to get creative, they're putting them in bad positions. You can't put them in bad positions and don't think a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers is not going to figure that out. Now, if you're going up against a second-year guy, that maybe can't figure that out, then maybe you might have him confused. Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to confuse him with that. So I think on the defensive side, they've done a pretty good job up front. On the offensive side, they've been poor for a decade now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. You just like to see a little continuity up front. They were getting massacred up front. But again, you got to go get you got to go out here and go get a top flight left tackle. I mean, you got an average left tackle out there right now. You got to go get a great one. So you got to figure out how, if you can go spend the money. I'd rather them not sign an Allen Robinson and go get the best left tackle they can find for the money right now. And I'm not exactly sure who that is, but I would try to go out here and see who's on the waiver wire to try to see who I could find to put somebody in there. They really need to do that. Now, the problem is, if you put that type of money into your offensive line and say there's an injury or something like that, then all that goes to waste and you're back and you're in less hell now because you paid that guy $18, $19, $20 million a year to play left tackle for you, and now he's not there to play it. So now you really the rest of your. But if you have a good offensive line, good to great offensive line, you can win in the NFL. I mean, you look at the Cowboys, you look at different teams like that who notoriously, you look at the Steelers, who notoriously have good offensive lines. You look at the Packers, notoriously have good offensive lines. You got to have good offensive lines to win in the NFL. I mean, that's just part and parcel of it. So until they get to that point where they actually have good offensive lines, Bears aren't going to be any good. We're going to be in the same situation that we're in. Right now, I don't care if they had a 6-game losing streak, a 5-game winning streak. They're 8-8.
Personal foul. 69. Off first. He was giving them the business.
Yeah. And like the announcer says, they're giving them the business. They're a 500 ball club. They're going to be a 500 ball club. This is what it's going to be. And here's the sad part about it. When the faithful are able to get back into the stadiums next year, you can rest assured there'll be people falling out the stands down there at Soldier Field. The coffers, the money counters will be working overtime, and they'll be back putting money back in their pockets, and McCaskey's will, and we'll still look at a team that we might be out there putting paper bags over our heads.
Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it.
All right, Jay. So let's talk about briefly before we get ready to close. What is your prediction for next week's round one, Bears versus Saints?
Shellacking. This is gonna be a shellacking. This is gonna be ugly quick. It's gonna be ugly. This is the playoffs. This is win or go home. This isn't I'm just standing around, trying to get a first round bye and let me play a couple of people. This is win or go home. So you look at they want to get Drew Brees, get stuff lit off, and by the start of the fourth quarter they want to get Drew Brees sitting on the sidelines. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would be surprised if this is a 35-point difference in score. I mean, and because Drew Brees is going, if they don't get to Drew Brees, it's going to be a long, long, long day. And we saw today they didn't touch Aaron Rodgers. I don't even really think he has to wash his uniform.
Yeah, it was a bad